Hello my friends, it's the Game Boy Geek here. Today, you'll be representing a family of stained glass artisans constructing windows to help build the Sagrada Familia Cathedral over several generations. And you'll be doing this by carefully drafting dice and coloring in spaces to most cleverly meet each window's restrictions and objectives, and you'll be victorious. Sagrada Artisans is a legacy game of dice drafting and window crafting for 2 to 4 players. It takes 45 to 60 minutes to play, is for ages 13 and up, and published by Floodgate Games. Now it's on Kickstarter right now, so I'm going to show you how the game works, and I'll see you on the other side. This is a Kickstarter preview, so all the art and components you see here are not final, they're prototypes, so check the Kickstarter link in the description of this video to see all the final art and components. Check out the box of this. It is beautiful. It's almost like, it's basically a big foil. If you look at how it looks in the light there, it is just probably the most gorgeous box I've ever seen. Now this is a legacy game, and for those that don't know what that means, it's played as a campaign that evolves over time, and new rules and components will come and go as the story unfolds, and components will be written in and stickered on. For example, there'll be certain envelopes that you open up at certain times, or it might tell you, like the first time player gets first place for the third time, or maybe there'll be ones that say, hey, open when instructed. So things will be changing and morphing throughout the entire campaign, and you'll basically be playing through it once. Now it's designed to be played with the same group for the entire campaign. Now while this game is built on the foundation of the original Sagrada, no experience with it is required to play. And for fans of Sagrada, you'll definitely see some fun twists on familiar favorites. Here's some new things. In this game, you're going to have colored pencil, and you're actually going to be drawing out your board in colors right in your journal. So each player is going to get their own journal, and they'll use the same one throughout the entire campaign, and the campaign is 10 games long. Now the journal has a nice introduction. There's some stickered things here that you do not open until you're told. There's some secret things in the book. But the journal also has the 10 games that you're going to play through. Each of them have its own pages. This is all for the first game. Now, the game itself, you're going to be playing. I'm going to show you what you're trying to do here, but I'm actually going to use a color copy of this because I didn't want to ruin the book because there's only a few of them, and I didn't want to ruin those for my plays, but I wanted to show you how things work. So again, this is a color copy of that book for me to show you an example of what happens. Now, this is sort of at the end of the first game. Now, I'm going to show you how you do this in just a minute. Over the course of the game, you're going to be drafting dice, and you're going to be coloring in with those little colored pencils and drawing in the numbers in certain spots. We'll tell you about the rules of how you do this later, but this might be how it looks at the end. And notice that there's actually lots of places that you could doodle on these, like I made the little sun here, and it's quite relaxing to sort of color in during the game as well, but this might be what your board looks like when you're done. Now each game there's going to be some public objectives, and these are going to be the same, and they're going to be on your book for all the players. For example, you're trying to get a column that's completed that has all different numbers. This is known as shade variety, and for each of those you're going to get 4 points, and as you can see, I got 8 points, so I got it twice. So as you can see, this column here is completed, it has all different numbers, and same like this. This one didn't get it because I have the same number, same for this, and these ones aren't completed. We'll talk about why you might not complete things later. Now the next one might be color balance. So here it's showing you any of the same colors that's in like the first and third row of the same column, or the second or fourth. As long as they're in that symmetrical position and they have the same color, you'll get 3 points. I got 12, so I got it 4 times. So for example, I got the 2 reds here, I got the 2 yellows here, I got the 2 reds here, and I got the 2 greens there. Now this last one was the hardest one. I actually didn't get any of them, but the whole row needed to have all the different numbers on there. And if you did, you would have gotten 7 points. Now that's the hardest one to do, but you can see I repeated the 5 there, I repeated the 2 here, and these were not completed, so yeah, I didn't score that one. Now each game you're going to have a private goal. This is something that no one else will know, and I'm going to show you this because this is basically in the first game, it's like standard Sagrada. So here, this person was trying to get the sum of all the reds, and different players would have different colors they're going for essentially. So each red one, they're going to get points, and I got 22 because in all the red ones, you just add those up, and that's what I got there. Now the next one are tools. We'll talk about tools a little more in depth as I tell you how to play the game in just a moment, because right now I'm just trying to tell you, like, what are you trying to do in the game? So here I actually use these. These are essentially special abilities that allow you to manipulate the dice that you're placing, and anytime you use them, you're going to color them in, but the ones that you didn't color in, you're going to get points. So this one got me 3, 4, 5 right there. Now this is going to be minus points. That's why it's red. Anytime you are not able to fulfill a a square, or you kind of screwed up, you'll get minus points for those. Now we'll go a little bit more over placement rules in detail later, but these ones did not get filled in because every one that gets filled in has to have a number and a color that's different from everything that's adjacent to it. And I just wasn't able to pull that off towards the end because it gets harder and harder as the puzzle gets closer and closer to the end. And as you can see here, you add it all up and I got 45 points. Now each game is going to actually last 12 rounds, which is 2 more rounds than the standard Sagrada game. And you'll put in your final score and what place you're in, and then certain things will happen that we'll go over a little bit later. But let's tell you about, well, now you know what you're trying to do and how you score, at least in general. Let's talk about how you go about doing it. Now in each of the 12 rounds, you're going to take a certain amount of dice from this bag and you're going to take them at random and roll them. Now there'll be a certain amount of dice depending on the amount of players. In this case, let's say a 3-player game. We would pull out this many dice and we put them on the cathedral board. Like this says red 4, that's red 4. Now if we had rolled a duplicate die, like 2 yellow 2s, well, one of these would get re-rolled. You just do that until, if you have more than one die of a color, you got to make sure that they're different values. So it might look something like this. Then the first player is going to get the first choice. They get to pick any die and then they'll draw it on their sheet. So let's say it was us and we had that red goal, and we might want to take this one. Now again, I'm using a color copy of that sheet so I don't ruin my book. But you'd get this and they would draw it in. Now the first die, unlike normal Sagrada, can actually go anywhere, following certain rules, and then every other die has to go adjacent to it or around it, like surrounding it. Now certain values are already written in, meaning that's the value of die that needs to go there. So like this 4 could go here because I need to put a 4 there sometime, and it's going to be next to a purple and a green, and I'll tell you why that's important in a minute. So yeah, let's say that. Let's say we went here with that red 4 because we know we have to put the 4 there anyway. We also know that a red's going to need to go here, so a good choice would be either here or here. But since the next die has to be somewhere around here, or if I put it here, this gives me more options, so maybe I start here. Now in the main Sagrada game, that's not the Legacy, you actually have to start on the edge, but this one allows you to start anywhere. So let's say we put it there, let's color it in. So it would look like this, and if it's already drawn in, you don't have to draw the number. If it did not have a number there, there's a black one that you will draw the number in. Now, a couple of placement rules, in general speaking, is you can never have the same color die orthogonally adjacent to it, or the same number. So if this, I couldn't have put this here if this was red, or this was red, or this was red, or this was red, or if this, or this was a 4, for example. Couldn't do that. So again, let's say it was that 3-player game. The next player drew this one in clockwise order. And the third player drew this. Then we go back in the opposite direction. So that last player who got basically the last choice gets the first choice drafting the rest of the dice. So that third player gets to basically draft 2 in a row. And then basically it's going back in that other direction. That other player takes this. And then us, we got the best first choice of all the dice, but now we're gonna get the last choice, but we'll always have 2 to choose from. Let's go ahead and pick this one. And we decided to put it in the purple spot that was already pre-shaded, and we put the 1 in there. Again, we had to go somewhere around there, and we couldn't have the same color or number next to it, and we're kind of working on all the goals. That'd be the end of the round. We would tick off right here that we have completed a certain round number 1 down here. And again, we would start all the way over. We throw all the dice back in the bag, and the first player would move clockwise, and we continue this way for 12 rounds. So now that you know how you're drafting dice, we can go back to my previous example of a finished board, and you can go, okay, now I could see why here. Here I could not have put a green or red or 1, 2, 6, or 4, and it was really hard to get that done. So now that you know how the game works, let's talk a little bit more about these tools. Again, this is for this specific game. This one, if we had used it, again, we would cross that out, essentially losing us a point. But after drafting a die, we could fill that space with a 1 instead of, what number it was. This one, we could flip the die to the other side and use that value. This one, we could, after drafting, fill in a non-adjacent space because normally you have to go adjacent. So again, these allow you to just break the rules of the game. Now, at the end of the game, the first thing is you're going to be getting legacy points, and it depends on which game you are. We were in game number 1, so whoever won got a legacy point. So on the back of your journal, you would be coloring these in. These are going to help you in different ways. I'll mention some of them now, but again, the back of the book, there's also some sticker here that you do not open until told. You might end up opening that up in the first game, depending on what you do. We'll see. Then starting from last place, you look at this little chart here. Let's say we were playing that 3-player game. Last place is going to get 3 coins to spend and 2 tools. Now, I'm not going to show you what these actually do, but each game is going to have a certain amount of things that come out. There's a whole deck of cards that's specific and certain things that are going to happen between each game, and that player is going to be able to look at these and get some. But I'm not going to show you these because that's a little bit of a spoiler there, what they do. So that's what that happens. And the second place player would actually get a legacy point and a tool and a coin. And first place is also always going to be able to sign the back of the cathedral board. And again, it has a little reward there as well, but you can sign them, and it's kind of a fun thing to do when you're doing a legacy game. Then, starting with last place in legacy points, players get to spend coins. Now, we showed you that you get a certain amount of coins. You must spend them this round, but there's sort of 3 different tracks. For every coin you spend, you can cross off one of these, and you're going left of right in 3 different tracks. For example, when you get here, you get another legacy point, and when you get to the end of any of these tracks, you get to tick this and get a special ability. Now, as you work down this track, you'll be able to get tools. Now, the tools that come out for each round that aren't taken go in this little box here. It's a market box. You'll be able to pick from all those. So the ones that people haven't taken, you'll be able to take as you work up the tools of the trade track. Now, the family skill training. Now, if you don't want to know anything that might pop up in the first scenario, this would be a good time to stop the video. But if you're curious, the publisher actually encouraged us to show some of the things that pop up. I haven't shown you everything. In fact, there are a few things in the first game that I purposely am not showing you, but I want to show you one little thing that's not a huge spoiler, but it is going to give you some idea of what might pop up in the first game. So if you don't want to see it, turn it off now to the final thoughts. So for the family skill, there is a certain part of the game, something might trigger it, I'm not going to tell you what, but that will allow you to get a family crest. And as you go down these, you're going to be able to get family crest ability. So let's talk a little bit about that. Now again, I'm not going to tell you when this happens in the first game. I'm going to leave that to a surprise for you, but one of these numbered envelopes, which I'm not showing you as well, will be open and certain things will come out. For example, there's a bunch of family crest stickers and you'll get one, and I also won't tell you how you tell which one you get. We'll leave that up for interpretation, but this will go on the front of your journal so you know that that's your crest for the rest of the entire campaign. And then every time you get one of these crest abilities, like this, you'll get one when you first open this envelope as well. You get to pick one of these abilities and put it on your family crest card because there's 4 spots for it. Like, these allow you to manipulate the die. You could use this to do a die -1 or a +1 or a -2 or 0, or flip it. Or you could take a die and use that die, but use it as the color of somebody else's family crest color. So different ways to use it. So you get to pick one of these, put it on here. Anytime you work down this track and you unlock one of those abilities, you'll pick another sticker. So you could have up to 4 of them there. But now when you use it, now this also shows you that there's other rules that might come out sometime later. But after you use one of these, you flip it over. And I'm not going to go over any more details because I don't want to spoil too much. Just want to give you a flavor of some of the different things that happen even in the first game. Now the last little treat I want to show you is that as you go on, even quickly after the first game, you're not going to be seeing boards that look like the original Sagrada board. You're going to be seeing some that look very different, that work differently. And they just look differently, and they change the way that adjacency works and things like that. But I just want to give you, just to show that a lot of the boards look very different from normal Sagrada if you're looking to see how much different that this can be. Well, there you have Sagrada Artisans, and as I showed in the overview, while the game is built on the foundation of the original Sagrada, no experience with it is required to play. Now, if you'd like to see the most up-to-date art and components and all the different pledge levels available, you can click the link below me, right in the description of this video. Now, that's going to bring you right to the Kickstarter project page, and I'm sure that Floodgate Games would love your support.